In this video, I'm going to show you how I process vocal ad-libs, but before we get started, my name is Ed, you're watching Stokes Sounds, and if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment, and if you want to support the channel, head over to our website, stokessounds.com. Now let's dive in. So I've got a track here, it's by an artist called Olivia Nicole, and the song is Never Ending. And let's take a listen to what we're working with, and then I'm going to show you my process on how I kind of achieve the vocal ad-lib sound in this mix.
Don't get me wrong, I'm in heaven. He'll break the mold, he's always been like that. He's just had to get out of this never-ending feeling. Why does it feel?
So you get the vibe of the track, you can hear it's quite a dense mix, there's a lot going on, and what I needed to do is I needed to make space for those ad-libs. I wanted them to cut through the mix, but I also didn't want them to kind of sit on top of the vocal and just be in the way. I wanted to allow that electric guitar to kind of cut through and shine, and all of the other kind of great instrumental elements that are in this mix. So the way that I did this was as I used the same kind of vocal chain that I've got on the lead. I've got other videos about this, about vocal processing, so I won't go into too much detail, but I've got some auto-tune going on, and then I've got some ozone spectral shaping just to take out some harshness, some EQ, then I've got another EQ just to add some brightness to the vocal, standard CLA 76, Spectre. That's the kind of the main lead vocal chain, so that would have been copied and pasted from the lead vocals onto the ad-lib. It's the same singer with the same microphone, it was recorded on the same day, it was okay to copy and paste the main vocal chain. But there are two elements that I like to do on my ad-libs to make them a little bit different from the lead. First thing is I like to, add more reverb than I would do on the lead vocal. I want to create this kind of space, this magical space that's going to sit on top of the vocal. And the way that I like to do that is kind of have a really kind of high pre-delay and a long decay, and then I blend that into the ad-libs. And that just allows me to kind of get that clarity and separation between the lead vocal and the ad-libs. One way to push kind of vocals back into the mix is by adding more reverb, because the more reverb you add, the more kind of further back they go. That's why when you listen to songs when the vocal is like right next to your ear, usually it's quite a dry vocal, and that's because that's kind of what reverb does. It creates space and depth within the mix. Less reverb will make the vocal feel closer to you, and then the more reverb on a vocal, it will make the vocal feel further back. So that's kind of the way that I view it. So if we kind of solo just the ad-lib, so you can really hear what they're doing without the additional reverb and the other plugin that I'm going to get onto, and just hear what the ad-libs are, by itself.
Woo! Yeah!
So you can hear there is some delay on there, and there is a little bit of reverb, and that's because it's going through the lead vocal chain. So that's, that is right. That's how I would do it. But what I wanted to do is add additional things to this ad-lib. So the first thing I did was I used Valhalla Vintage Verb. This is a great reverb. I absolutely love it. And I'm just using it on the concert hall. But the difference with this one is I've got quite a high decay and I've got a long pre-delay, and that's just making everything bigger. It's pushing the reverb further back. The longer the pre-delay means the reverb happens later when the vocal sang. So again, it creates this kind of bigger gap. So if we listen to this ad-lib up here with the reverb on and off, you'll hear what this is doing, to the actual vocal itself.
Woo!
Bypassed.
Woo!
You can see it's very subtle, but the decay is much shorter when that reverb is off. So as I say, I wanted to make that kind of a bit more of a magical moment. It's a high vocal, so I just added a ton of reverb. And I've got the mix at 21%, so it's not, overkilling it, but it's not kind of too little where it's not really making a difference. So if we just have a listen and I drive up this mix, you'll hear kind of really what the reverb is, creating.
Woo!
That's too much to me. You don't want it to sound muddy in the mix, so I just had it at 21. And that was it. And then the next thing that I did was I then used something called PanMan by Soundtoys, and this is a great plugin. What I wanted to do is you will find that some people will kind of pan their ad-libs slightly to the left or slightly to the right, depending on taste. What I wanted to do is I've got the vocal center, and I wanted to have the ad-lib kind of circle around the lead vocal. So that means that when that lead vocal is going, you've got this ad-lib which is kind of just happening at the back, and when all the instruments are playing, it's kind of slightly left, slightly right. And as you can see here, you can see the movement on this kind of dial area here where it's going from right to left, and it's just kind of slowly doing it. And I just kind of play around with this until it kind of feels right. So if you have a listen with this plugin on and then I'm going to take it off, you'll hear what it's doing. Again, very subtle, but you can really hear when that is turned on, it kind of goes to the right speaker and then it slightly goes to the left. And, you know, I don't have it on a huge width. I've got it on quite minimal. But again, it's these small things that make all the differences. So that's kind of how I process kind of ad-lib. And I did the same thing on these other ad-libs. If you take a listen to these ad-libs with the processing on.
Yeah.
And then with those two additional plugins turned off.
Yeah.
Now what I'm going to do is play those ad-libs with the whole track together with the additional plugins turned on, and then I'm going to play it with the additional plugins off, and you'll hear what the difference is. It's subtle, but there is a difference. So we're going to turn them off, and then we're going to play from here. Then we're going to put them on. So you can hear that it's just making space, you know, when she's singing the whoa, whoa parts and the ad-libs are then happening on top. What I'm doing is I'm just creating space within the mix itself, because a lot of people, you've got two stereo systems, you've got a left and a right. And what I wanted to do is have the ad-libs kind of go between the left and the right, but keep the main vocal kind of center. And so by doing that, I'm creating separation, and that's what gives you separation and clarity in a mix. You can see I've got more stuff going on here. If you look at, you know, coming out of chorus into the post-chorus, there's these ad-libs here. If we just solo them, we can hear what they're doing. And those ad-libs are happening over the post-chorus vocals. Take a listen. You can really hear that PanMan that I've got going on the never-ending feeling part, the ending feeling. You can hear how the feeling kind of goes from one side of the speaker slightly to the other. Again, creating that separation. Take a listen in solo. Again, it's just adding this kind of emotion and dynamic to the overall mix. So that's kind of how I process vocal ad-libs. And, you know, sometimes I'll change up the volumes. I'll, you know, do some automation. In this case, I didn't, because I felt like I didn't need to. I wanted the vocals to be quite consistent. You know, Olivia sang with a compressor on this, so there was already compression going on that was controlling the dynamics. You know, you'll see sometimes that I will ride them. So I'll do something, you know, like if I go here to touch mode, and then what I'll do is I'll play.
Feeling
could have done something like that. I didn't at the time, but you can see there that I'm just kind of adding more, again, emotion to the ad-libs, which is what was in my last video where I was talking about kind of how to add emotion to the overall mix itself. Again, similar kind of thing with this. But the reason why I chose not to do the automation on this was because I had the PanMan that was already creating that separation for me anyway. So I felt like when it comes down to the fundamentals of mixing, you've got the fader and you've got a left and a right on the pan. And because this PanMan is giving me that left and the right position, it's already in a way creating the volume that I needed for it within the mix. So if I had something center, maybe I would do kind of ride the volumes, but in this case I chose panning instead. Sometimes I do both, but for this instance I just felt like it didn't need to. It could stay quite flat because it was tracks with compression, so the levels were kind of quite close together anyway. And then having that PanMan plugin from Soundtoys just gave me that separation in the mix. So that's what I went with for this one. But that is how I process vocal ad-libs. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. And if you've got any questions about kind of processing ad-libs even further, then please leave them down below and I'll get back to all of you. And I'll see you again next week for another video.